During the Depression years, growing up in a family that was struggling, gave me a proper sense of identifying, understanding what I would have to do to make it in this world. And that's the work ethic, it's integrity, collaboration, those things, right? I just mentioned. I realized that if I were to succeed, those are the things that are important. That work ethic, integrity, and collaboration. I guess I also grew up, Tom, at a point in our history with the shadow of Hitler and how destructive these dictators were. I realized that leadership can stain a nation's history, stain a corporation's reputation. What more important thing can I be looking at? I wasn't particularly gifted or as a scientist or an engineer. I couldn't do that kind of thing, I knew that. But what could be more important if you're interested in organizations than the leadership of these institutions? I would not be the scholar I am today were it not for my years at Cincinnati. They were the most important learning years of my life, Tom. Everything that I did as the president, my eyebrows were always raised in trying to understand it. I also learned something about collaboration, modesty, and abdication of one's ego. How do we develop the idea of the commons, that we're all in this together, and each of us may have to give a little bit for the common good? In the Middle East, they have a phrase about leaders who don't listen. They say they have tired ears. That leads to revolt. People aren't listening. And if you put that in a microcosm of a university during that period, to know that the administration, not just Warren Bennis, were listening. I think leadership brings out character, and I think I learned who I was, what my voice was. I think it's influenced almost every aspect of my life, from how I use my time, effort, creativity, collegiality, judgments I make. Also, it gives me a lens by which I now examine quality of leadership. The quality of the leader usually accounts for 20 to 25% of the success of the company, using any metric you want. Once you make a distinction between, as I did, between leaders versus managers, and wrote about, in the book Unbecoming a Leader, wrote about a dozen plus distinctions, ending up with one: managers do things right and leaders do the right thing. Well, think about it. But you know, they're both important. But the leader is the one who inspires, who sets the mission and the vision, has the ideas. But there's a big but there. But they subordinate their ego to the talents of others. Riding the hyphen. That's a phrase I invented for what is important today in today's university. How do we get our students to know a discipline really well and to be also a generalist? You cannot be transformational if you're not hyphenated. I think a big part of leadership, Tom, is the capacity to engage people, the capacity to have this kind of conversation. See, I've always defined boredom, this is really a conceit, which I'm not going to give up. I think boredom is when I can't make the person I'm sitting next to interesting. Isn't that narcissistic? I mean, but that's what I really believe. The main thing about leadership is managing yourself. So the first part of emotional wisdom, who you are, how aware you are, how you affect others. Leadership, if nothing else, is about a relationship. It's what it is. Leadership is very simple, made too complex by people who write about it, including me. It consists of three things: a person who's designated as leader, a goal, and a relationship with somebody. If you look at people who fail at leadership, I would say 9 or 8 out of 10 times, it's not their technical competence. It's their emotional wisdom. When I left in '77, I felt that I'm leaving a place where the judgment about my leadership would have to be made years after. When I said earlier that I'm proud to be part of the narrative of the University of Cincinnati, I'm glad I've been part of that history.